For 30 years now, Grace Church has been a living testimony to the faithfulness of God through growth, trials, transitions, and God's steady guidance. In 1994, Cost Evangelical Free Church began praying about planting a church in Wyoming, Minnesota. Together with Lakes Free, they hosted a public meeting at Wyoming Elementary School and invited anyone to learn about this new church. Out of that meeting, a Bible study was formed, which would help build a unified church body and serve as the foundation for weekly worship services. The start of a Bible study was on August 10th, 1995, 30 years ago today. In April 1996, Ben Gildner was called as the first pastor. On September 1st, 1996, Wyoming Community Church held its very first independent worship service at Wyoming Elementary School with nearly 100 people in attendance. In 1997, the church officially became part of the Evangelical Free Church of America. In spring of 1998, they moved to the community building of the Wyoming Methodist Church, which became their new meeting place for several years. Pastor Ben led the church until he resigned in June of 2001. That resignation led to a crossroads, and it seemed possible that the church was to dissolve altogether. In that moment of uncertainty, the church reached out to the EFCA, who sent a retired pastor, Don Roberts, to serve as interim. Don was unpaid, humble, and steady. He provided much-needed stability and kindness. Don served for a year and a half, and then in 2002, Pastor Daniel Patz was called to lead Wyoming Community Church. The following summer, the church was informed that their space in the Methodist Church was to be torn down. The search began for a permanent home. In September 2004, they looked into leasing a building on Faxton Avenue, formerly Red Hot Deals. Over the next 5 months, the church saw God open doors in amazing ways to make it possible to be in the building. In the midst of the building negotiations, the church voted to change its name to Grace Evangelical Free Church. Months of remodeling began in February and continued until July. On July 24, 2005, Grace Church held its first worship service at 26680 Faxton Avenue. The building brought stability, a new season of growth, and a great sense of unity. In 2007, Pastor David Van Acker was hired as pastor of discipleship. That same year, held its first annual Ebenezer service to mark God's faithfulness. In 2008, the option came up to purchase the building. Finances were tight, and the monthly payments would be higher than the current rent payment. The church made an offer, but it was not accepted. During this time, the church began to engage the community through the farmers market and backyard Bible clubs. And we sent 2 families from Grace Church to serve as full-time missionaries in Asia and Africa. In 2013, Pastor Daniel was sensing God's call to serve at the Bible college that his grandfather founded. He resigned in July, and Pastor Dave stepped in as interim and was commissioned as lead pastor. In 2014, another chance to purchase the building came up. This time, God opened every door at a lower cost, and Grace had a permanent home at last. In 2017, a major renovation was completed to the building. The $40,000 needed to begin seemed insurmountable considering our current finances, but the members of Grace pledged that amount within 48 hours. The project renovated the sanctuary, classrooms, and allowed the attached former auto shop to become our fellowship hall. In 2018, Mike Maruska became pastor of discipleship, and he continued to build up the ministries at Grace, as well as oversee the discipleship wall and family roadmap. The next few years to today have consisted of steady growth and routines. Missions Week, Orphan Sunday, summer picnics, and behold, celebrating God through the arts have become annual traditions. Over the years, we've had hundreds of hostings with Together for Good, many foster children, and at least 12 adoptions. Grace Church continued to send missionaries around the world, including members who have served long-term. At the end of 2023, Mike Maruska stepped down as pastor of discipleship. After a search process, in October 2024, Colin Reuter was hired as pastor of discipleship. From living rooms, to a school, to sharing space with another church, to a former retail store, and now a church home. Through heartache, healing, and hope, God has been faithful. To God be the glory, great things He has done, and greater things are still to come.